Thanks for making time to speak to us, Ambassador Fisher, and for welcoming us to Indonesia. Can you just tell us, ever since this disaster unfolded, have you heard of any South Africans that have been affected or reported missing?
Well, up to now, we've not had any reports of South Africans that have been affected. There have been families who contacted us, and up to now, no South Africans have been directly affected by the tragedy.
What do you make of interventions of such NGOs like Gift of the Givers? Because they're here now, they're trying to get into the epicenter of this disaster.
Well, I think flying the South African flag, you know, the issue of Ubuntu, you know, sharing the South African goodwill, I think that is important at a time like this for the Indonesians. What is, however, important is, in my deliberations with the Indonesians, is that they want a coordinated effort. Up to now, there is no international search and rescue team on the ground. The Indonesians have tried to limit that simply because the situation is very powerless. There are still many aftershocks. The roads, Palu is completely inaccessible. And so I think the Indonesian authorities want to have control over who accesses, you know, the area so that a further disaster can be averted.
Let's talk about the diplomatic relations between South Africa and Indonesia. I think they date back to 1994, if not 1995. How are those relations between the two countries?
Well, I think there are cordial relations between Indonesia and South Africa. I think there indeed is room for much more improvement. We share the G20 forums, for example. As from January next year, both Indonesia and South Africa will be starting their terms, the 2-year terms in the United Nations Security Council, which I think is an important part. There is indeed a cultural link between Indonesia and Cape Town. So, for example, we have Makassar here in Indonesia as well as in Cape Town, and that link from the Dutch time is very important. So I think there are so many opportunities for both South Africa and Indonesia to share, you know, and to grow this relationship. Last year, former President Zuma visited on a state visit. And we are hoping soon that we'll have a reciprocal visit to South Africa by the president here.
You say the relations between Indonesia and South Africa are quite cordial and warm. If one can ask, why does South Africa need Indonesia and vice versa?
I think South Africa and Indonesia are both at a crossroads economically. Remember that Indonesia is the 4th most populous country in the world. So in terms of a consumer base for South Africa, I think that is very important. And I think that's the kind of relationship, if we are looking at building, you know, economic relations, I think that's the kind of consumer market you are looking for. Indonesia is looking, at this point, is engaged in a huge infrastructure development program. President Widodo has led that program here. It's a rejuvenation program, and I think it's an important program for, you know, the people of Indonesia. President Ramaphosa is doing a similar thing in South Africa. We are looking at getting, you know, huge investment into South Africa, and I think these are the similarities that you are looking. It's about, you know, economic growth. It's about finding jobs for the people. It's about, you know, creating prosperity for people of both Indonesia and South Africa.
Currently, as we speak, what are some of the South African products that are being consumed or exported to this country?
To be truthful, there are not enough South African products here. What we have mainly are agricultural products. And we really need to grow more. What we are looking at is obviously trying to get some halal meat here, because I believe we have a competitive advantage in that area. The Indonesian market is you know, we can learn a lot from their IT. They have good examples around, you know, just the Gojek, the taxi you've used to get here. Very good examples of where the IT platform started out as a, call it a taxi or transport platform, but it's now moved into the financial sector. And so these companies have grown huge. For example, Uber in this country has been taken over by the Grab, you know, platform. And so IT, for example, that's where we can share a lot of expertise. Remember I said, yeah, 250 million people, a huge market for, possibly for South Africa. And I think these are important areas.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add in closing?
President Ramaphosa has expressed condolences on behalf of the people of South Africa to the government and people of Indonesia. Indonesia is going through a very difficult time. You've mentioned earlier that the earthquakes in Lombok, there were several over a number of days. And I think over 300 people, you know, perished. Many people were injured. Huge damage was caused in that area. There were a number of earthquakes. In the meantime, of course, you know, the aftershocks. And then volcanoes. And now, you know, this tragedy in Lombok followed by a tsunami. It's a sad situation, and I think in all of the reporting one needs to remember the human factor. It is sad what is happening there, and I think the world has responded. You know, South Africa has responded through the gift of the givers. In meeting with them, they've met. They've brought in initially 2 tons of medical equipment and food and water. And I think these are important, you know, gestures from South Africa toward Indonesia. This will definitely help in our future relations.